How does Miami Beach sell luxury nightlife with bottle service and velvet ropes, then accidentally sell a moment of open extremist theater like it's just another VIP add-on? A video out of Vendôme shows a cluster of Manosphere / right-wing influencers, names like Nick Fuentes, Andrew Tate, Sneeko, and Clavicular, chanting along as Yes, Heil Hitler plays, with footage also appearing to show Nazi salutes in the crowd, and the city's forced into the most humiliating job imaginable, crisis PR for a party that should have ended the second someone pressed play. But wait, here's the real question. Was this a mistake? Or the attention economy doing exactly what it always does when outrage equals free distribution? Stay till the end, because the chant is ugly, but the business model is colder. Miami Beach is supposed to be the postcard version of decadence, neon reflections on polished cars, bouncers guarding velvet ropes, and exclusive experiences sold at a markup so absurd it starts to look like performance art. Vendôme, the club at the center of this controversy, sits inside that ecosystem, an economy built on selling not just alcohol, but a feeling. You're in the room where something important is happening, the kind of place where the music is loud enough to drown out your conscience and the lighting is flattering enough to make bad decisions look cinematic. Then the clip hits the internet, and suddenly the entire fantasy collapses into something brutal and undeniable. Video circulating online shows a crowd at Vendôme reacting to Yes, Heil Hitler, with a cluster of prominent far-right / Manosphere adjacent personalities in the frame. Reporting and widely shared posts identified figures like Nick Fuentes, Andrew Tate, Sneeko, and Clavicular among those present, and the footage appears to show chants and Nazi salutes in the crowd. The surface-level shock isn't just they played a song. It's the full package, the camera-ready crowd, the performative cheering, the sense that everyone involved understood exactly what kind of moment they were creating, something edgy enough to go viral, disgusting enough to provoke outrage, and ambiguous enough to be defended as just trolling. And this is where the city and the media get dragged into the script. Once the clip spreads, it's no longer a nightclub incident, it's a brand risk for Miami Beach, a reputational problem for local nightlife, and a political lightning rod that forces everyone to choose a position publicly. The venue becomes the center of the apology pipeline. Statements, denials, we don't condone hate, we're investigating. The familiar corporate language that always arrives after the algorithm has already distributed the damage. But the most cinematic detail is also the most damning. In a club environment, nothing happens by accident for long. Songs don't just play themselves while management is unaware, especially when the crowd reaction is loud, visible, and escalating. Somebody pressed play. Somebody watched the reaction. Somebody allowed it to continue long enough for the clip to exist, be recorded, and travel. And once that's true, the surface story stops being about a song and becomes about what the club was actually selling that night. Not drinks, not VIP tables. Attention. The myth everyone rushes to build in moments like this is weirdly comforting because it makes the story feel smaller than it is. The influencers want one myth, that this was just trolling, the kind of edgy, ironic performance that's supposedly harmless because they can always pretend they don't mean it. The club wants another myth, that it was just a song, a freak moment in a loud room, a misunderstanding that slipped through the cracks of a normal night. And the internet, hungry for a clean narrative, happily supplies the third myth, that this is a story about a few uniquely disgusting people in one uniquely disgusting room on one uniquely disgusting night. But the myths only work if you ignore the economics of what was happening in real time. A luxury nightclub isn't a random public space. It's a business designed to convert atmosphere into money. It sells exclusivity, it sells spectacle, and it sells the sensation of being close to something that feels forbidden. So when a moment like this happens, the question isn't how could this happen? The more honest question is, why does this kind of moment travel so well in this kind of venue? And here's the detail that makes it harder to dismiss. Edgy is not a moral category, it's a marketing strategy. It's a shortcut to virality. It's a way to create a night that people can't stop talking about, even if the talking is outrage. But wait! Because the myth building doesn't just protect the venue, it protects the audience too. If we can label it a one-off, we don't have to admit what's actually happening in the attention economy. Extreme content doesn't need mainstream approval to spread. It only needs a camera-ready moment, a crowd that understands the assignment, and a platform ecosystem where outrage is distribution. When a clip is guaranteed to trigger disgust, debates, quote tweets, and reaction videos, the content becomes self-propelling. It doesn't matter whether people share it to condemn it, mock it, or expose it. Sharing is still amplification, and amplification is still value. Now zoom out one more level, because this is the part everyone tries to dodge. The luxury setting is part of the myth. It's the implication that this is high-status behavior, that these are VIPs, that this is what the inside looks like. That implication is poison because it launders extremism through glamour. It turns something vile into a moment, something shocking into a scene, something that should be socially radioactive into a piece of nightlife content. And when the response becomes a rehearsed apology pipeline, shock, statement, we don't condone, promise of action, it starts to look less like accountability and more like damage control as a standard operating procedure. Here's the microhook that should make you uneasy. If everyone involved can predict the outrage, predict the headlines, predict the apology, and still choose the moment, then the scandal isn't a glitch in the system. It's one of the system's most reliable outputs. Here's what makes this incident more than a gross clip and a predictable apology. The whole thing is engineered to be defensible while still being maximally shareable. A luxury club can always hide behind "we didn't know." Influencers can always hide behind "we were joking." And platforms can always hide behind "we're just hosting what people post." Meanwhile, the footage does what footage always does in 2026. It turns outrage into rocket fuel. Start with the uncomfortable logistics. According to Miami New Times, multiple videos circulated showing Nick Fuentes, Andrew Tate, Sneeko, and streamer Clavicular at Vendome in Miami Beach singing along to Ye's Heil Hitler, with one clip showing them arriving in a limo blasting the track, and another showing the group inside the club while a person identified as men's rights influencer Myron Gaines appears repeatedly doing a Nazi salute. That is not a soundcheck accident. That is a crowd that understands exactly what kind of moment it's creating. The kind that can be clipped, reposted, debated, condemned, and monetized within minutes. But wait, because the most revealing part is what the venue allegedly did next, and what it did not do in the moment. Miami New Times notes, Vendome posted a statement on its official Instagram after the backlash. The modern scandal choreography is almost comforting in its familiarity. Statement, apology language, promises of action, a gesture toward values, and the implied request that everyone please move on before this becomes a week-long trend. It's not accountability, it's a fire extinguisher, and it's usually deployed only after the fire has already generated enough heat to be profitable. Because here's the cold truth. This wasn't just music in a room. Ye's Heil Hitler isn't some obscure track nobody could anticipate. It's a widely condemned extremist glorifying release that multiple platforms have removed or restricted, and it's been significant enough to trigger political consequences internationally. The Associated Press reported Australia cancelled Ye's visa over the song, with Australia's Home Affairs Minister describing the track as promoting Nazism and saying the country had enough problems without deliberately importing bigotry. So when a club plays this in a luxury setting, it's not happening in a cultural vacuum. It's happening in full knowledge that the shock is the point. And that's the motive layer everyone keeps trying to ignore while they argue about who's worse. A nightclub economy is built on selling an experience, not just alcohol, not just tables, status. A story you can post, a clip you can prove happened. So if the clientele includes controversy-hungry influencers, the venue is not simply renting out space, it's negotiating with attention. The more outrageous the moment, the more guaranteed the distribution. Even the backlash is distribution, especially the backlash. Now zoom in on the influencers because their incentives are embarrassingly consistent. The Manosphere and far-right content ecosystem thrives on two currencies: transgression and victimhood. First, do something that triggers disgust. Then, when the backlash comes, frame it as censorship, free speech, or people can't take a joke. The same clip can be sold twice, once as a domination ritual, look how fearless and edgy, and once as persecution content, look how they're trying to silence us. That's why "it was just a song" is such a powerful disguise. It's not a defense, it's a business strategy. But wait, here's the detail that should make you feel a little sick. Even the people condemning the clip risk becoming unpaid marketers for it. Every repost to shame it, every reaction video to expose it, every thread to name the faces in the crowd, all of it increases reach. The attention economy doesn't have morality, it has momentum. And momentum doesn't care whether you're sharing something because you love it or because you want it erased. The algorithm reads both as applause. So the real scandal isn't that a club played a disgusting track for a camera-ready crowd. The real scandal is that everyone involved, venue, influencers, platforms, can predict the entire cycle and still choose it. The limo arrival, the edgy moment, the viral spread, the apology statement, the free speech theater, the next trend replacing this one. If the outrage is guaranteed marketing, then the only mystery left is who exactly was paying and who was being paid in attention. What makes this Miami Beach moment genuinely terrifying isn't that a handful of influencers behaved like they were auditioning for edgelord court. It's how cleanly the entire system absorbs the disgust and turns it into distribution. A club that sells luxury is supposed to be curated. Sound, security, vibe, boundaries. Yet Miami New Times reported videos showing the group inside Vendôme while Heil Hitler played, with a person identified as Myron Gaines repeatedly doing a Nazi salute, and that Vendôme later posted an Instagram statement after backlash. That sequence is the modern scandal template. The harm happens on camera, the clip becomes the marketing, then the apology arrives like a receipt. Proof the venue is doing something after the internet already did the amplification. And this is where the "it's just a song" defense becomes a weapon. The song itself has been treated internationally as beyond normal boundaries. Associated Press reported Australia stripped Ye of a visa after the release, with the government describing it as promoting Nazism. So when a nightclub plays it for a camera-ready crowd, the story can't be reduced to a DJ mistake in a loud room. It's a choice operating inside a culture where the most profitable commodity is attention, especially the kind that makes people feel sick enough to share. ADL's response to the club footage framed it plainly as an anti-Semitism problem, asking why a venue would play a song glorifying Hitler and noting the influencers involved. That matters because it strips away the free speech theater costumes and names what's being normalized: hate content sliding into pop culture spaces under the cover of irony. Nightlife becomes a delivery vehicle, not for music but for ideology as vibe. And the ironic part is the most efficient laundering method imaginable, because it gives everyone plausible deniability while still delivering the spectacle. The deeper societal rot is that audiences, without meaning to, often complete the circuit. Even condemnation becomes reach. Every repost to expose the clip teaches the algorithm the same lesson. Extremism creates engagement. So the question isn't who's being radicalized, it's whether the attention economy itself is the radicalizing force, training venues, creators, and even outraged viewers to treat moral disgust as a growth strategy. In the end, The most honest thing about this scandal is how predictable it was. A luxury nightclub sold a moment. Influencers turned that moment into content. The internet turned that content into outrage, and the venue turned the outrage into an apology statement. Like, damage control is just the closing act of the business model. Miami New Times reported videos showing Nick Fuentes, Andrew Tate, Sneeko, and Clavicular at Vendome while Yes Heil Hitler played, with footage also showing a person identified as Myron Gaines repeatedly doing a Nazi salute, and the club posting an Instagram statement after backlash. That isn't chaos, that's choreography. And if anyone tries to shrink it into just a song, remember, this track has been treated as beyond the normal boundaries of acceptable speech even by governments. Associated Press reported Australia cancelled Yes visa over it, citing the promotion of Nazism. So this wasn't edgy nightlife, it was extremism laundering itself through glamour, irony, and a camera-ready crowd. Here's the punchline that lands cold. The club didn't just sell bottle service that night, it sold moral numbness as a VIP experience. And the influencers didn't just chase clout, they proved the fastest way to get reach is to make everyone feel sick. So the final question is the only one that matters. If outrage is free marketing, then who's really winning? Those men in the crowd, or the system that keeps rewarding the ugliest moments with the biggest spotlight?